There have been 15 drivers that have won more than 50 races in NASCAR's largest series. One of them is Denny Hamlin. Today we will be walking with Denny Hamlin. We are here at Martinsville. This is the oldest racetrack in NASCAR. It dates back to the inaugural NASCAR season 1949, and it is the only active track among the 8 original tracks that is still run regularly on. This is actually the second NASCAR race I'm attending. I went to the Daytona in 2022. Of course, Daytona is a lot different than this race. That's a super track. This is tight, compact racing, the smallest track in the sport. And not only are we going to be walking with Denny Hamlin, we're going to be walking around the racetrack here in Martinsville. Let's see if you can keep up with me.
Frank, want to introduce the guest today, by any chance?
I said, well, we got Denny Hamlin here walking with him.
I hear old and dude wipes. First thing I think of is large.
It's me, yeah, exactly. It's the only way I can stay fresh at this age. So what are we doing? We're going to walk down into the half-mile track,
yes.
do a couple times around the track on one time, depending on how conditioning is? Is that
Yeah.
cool? Excellent.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's go. You're coming into this weekend's race a winner. You won.
Yeah.
You won just 6 days ago.
That's right. Yeah.
In Richmond.
That's why I'm still doing this, is I feel like every 7 days I've got a shot to win.
Well, you're off to a good start this season.
We are. You know, we've won really 3 of the first races, three of the first 8 of the season, including the Clash. So we're undefeated on the short tracks, and this Martinsville Speedway is the shortest.
The shortest track in NASCAR.
Right.
You've won this race several times, have you?
Yeah, we won this one 5 times.
But you've also won Daytona 3.
Daytona 500, we've won 3 times. You know, we have some, you know, kind of some big races, you know, like majors in golf. Daytona's one of them. You can argue Bristol night races. You got the Indy for the Brickyard 400, the Coca-Cola 600, which we won, and then the Southern 500 at Darlington is definitely a major, and we won that 3 or 4 times.
Frank,
well,
I got to interject here. Did he jump the restart? Tense out of history with that type of shit.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take a look at the tape a couple thousand times.
You know, listen, it's like a moving pick. You can call it anytime you want.
Exactly, especially if you're Utah.
So, you're one of 15 drivers to achieve 50 career wins on the large circuits.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've avoided winning the championship somehow. But they've changed the format so many times that it really comes down to winning one race, which makes it pretty difficult. The sample size is pretty small. But, you know, at this point in my career, you know, I'm trying to get to 60 wins before I retire.
Chipping away.
We're chipping away, you know what I mean? So if we can keep on this, at least winning 3-4 races per season kind of pace, I think we're going to be pretty good.
I noticed that you're 1 win away from tying Lee Petty.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I always kind of look at, you know, of course you look at the list of people that are in front of you on the win category, and the names are starting to get greater and greater. Like, you know, big part of history for NASCAR to have Lee Petty 1 spot ahead of me. Hopefully we change that this weekend.
Because I look at 50 wins, and I looked at only 15 drivers have done it, and I look at some of the drivers that fell short, like Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
1 short, 49th.
Yeah, I mean, Tony, to me, is one of the greatest versatile drivers that we've ever seen. He's driven IndyCar and won, I mean, championships. Moved over to NASCAR, won championships. That is extremely hard to do because usually as a kid, when you figure out what path you're going to go in motorsports, you have to designate whether you're going to work to be a NASCAR driver or an IndyCar driver or an F1 driver. You can't, the techniques in which you use are so very different that it's hard to do both. And he is so talented that he was able to do both.
Didn't he do Coca-Cola and Indy 500 in the same day? I think
he did. He's one of the few that have done the double.
That to me is insane. You're in a car for for over 1,000 miles during the day, and it's like, I mean, you got to get the flight. You got to make everything's got to like connect at the right time. It's, I always marveled how Tony Stewart was able to do that.
Yeah, he's gifted beyond any talent level I was ever, granted with. But yeah, he's one of the NASCAR greats, and even him, didn't get the 50 wins.
No.
So it just tells you how tough it is.
I mean, being in there for 4 or 5 hours sometimes, that always seems like to be the toughest part. It's just like, and you're in there, the car, I guess, how hard is it to be to actually do the race? Is it, I mean, how young do you have to start to become a good racer?
I started when I was 8 years old in go-karts. That was kind of my start. If you look at other drivers like some of the young guys today, William Byron, for instance, didn't start until he was a teenager. And he started on iRacing. Well, back in my day when I was 8 to 10 years old, I didn't have iRacing. So I had to go out and just do it in real life. That's the opportunity kids have nowadays that we didn't have, is that, racing is a very expensive business, and it costs a lot of money to do, right? Because if your kid wants to do it, you got to go buy them a car. You have to replace the tires every week. If they blow the engine, if they wreck it, it costs money to replace it. I mean, iRacing creates a platform to where you can do it online, and honestly, it is the best way that you can hone your skills virtually. An NFL player can't go play Madden and get better at it because they're just pressing buttons. But on a platform like iRacing, you're using, your hands and your eye coordination and your feet, and all those things equal making you better.
I mean, that's the thing with NASCAR. I mean, everyone, baseball, they have Little League. And then basketball, they have basketball camps. Football has touch football, then tackle football, hockey. These players skate when they're 4. But NASCAR, you really can't know it. It's like driving, except for the go-karts until you're like 15, 16. And then you become a racer. All
right, so you're a sports guy. Where are you on this debate? Are athletes today, are they better than the ones 20 years ago?
I think that's necessarily
I know
true.
it's a hard comparison, but I believe athletes today, basketball players, I don't care what technique it is, football, basketball, and it's maybe an unpopular opinion, they're better today than they were 20 years ago because they started early, they have more technology, more analytics, more things. They're more educated on how to be better today than they were back in the day. They had to just be naturally talented. And
well, there's one guy who I think stands above them all, and if he was given the ability to play in today's sports science technology, he'd be superhuman. And I'm talking about your co-owner, Michael Jordan.
100%. And he has, what I loved about him and watching him
a burning desire
is that, yes, he did anything he could to be better than everyone else. We saw it with Kobe Bryant as well. Like these guys just outworked him.
Burning desire.
Now, given his work ethic and the technology that you're saying is available today, absolutely, 100% unstoppable. Especially, you look at how the rules have changed in sports over time. It's become softer, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that 100%, right?
I think if Jordan played today, he'd average 50 points for his career.
Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, how did that get set up with you co-owning a team with
it was
Michael Jordan?
It really was an accident. I met Michael Jordan at a Charlotte Hornets game. He was obviously sitting courtside with his team. This was in the early years of him owning it. I was a courtside season ticket holder, and I was going to, the halfway break house or whatever during halftime. Well, he had a security pull me aside and ask to meet me. And so, of course, I am completely starstruck. And so he gets my phone number, and then the second half of the game, he's asking me all these racing questions like, well, why would, last week, why would you pit in this scenario versus just staying out? And I'm like, wait a minute, this guy watches NASCAR. I was just blown away by it. Well, that started a friendship that essentially, led to a year later me saying, hey man, why don't you make my suit, my shoes, my gloves, He's like, done. So, he calls up the people, that Nike and the Jordan brand, they start making all my gear, and it just changed a lot of things. So I think that relationship that I built with him, that friendship, then turned into us playing golf together, doing things together, talking racing together. And, I didn't realize that his mom and dad used to take him to the NASCAR races when he was a kid with his brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So that's where
Wilmington.
That's right. He went to Darlington. He went to Darlington. He went to Talladega. He went to Charlotte. A lot of the tracks that we go to still today. So that grew his passion for racing. Basically, I was in the middle of COVID, kicking around some tires with some speculative team owners, and I wanted to purchase a minority stake in a race team. But I wanted to control the competition, the business side of that team. I never was going to get the control I really wanted. And so it just so happens the rumor mill gets started, and then there's a fake news article that comes out, says Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan are looking to purchase a stake in Richard Petty Racing. Well, that's fake news. I was doing it, but not him. And so I debated, and so I sent him this article, and I said, hey, it looks like we're going into business together. And he says, haha, that's obviously fake news, but if you want to make it real news, let me know. And so immediately I stopped, and I'm like, okay, what do I do now? What's my next move? I says, well, what do you mean? He says, well, are you going to be a team owner or not? I says, given the right situation, yes. He says, well, if you want a partner, let me know. I says, okay, when can you meet? I called up my agents. I says, hey, I need a business plan put together, how we're going to start a race team. And I need it within 48 hours because I'm flying down to Florida to meet them. They worked day and night, came up with the business plan, how we're going to make it work, showed it to him, and he says, listen, I love it, but this has got to go through my people, and that's going to take some time. So for the next month and a half to 2 months, his group vetted it and looked it over and says, we're in.
Wow, and you have two talented drivers, so you have notable racers.
Yeah,
too.
Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, driving the 23 and the 45.
I love that too. I love that it's his numbers.
Yeah, and so it's certainly special to him. I love it personally as well. I'm glad those numbers were available. But yeah, we're a new team in the sense of, most of the teams that are successful nowadays have been around for decades and decades.
Oh, you run race for one of the greatest teams.
Yes, I'm with one of the best teams in Joe Gibbs Racing. Them and Hendrick Motorsports honestly win the bulk of the races.
It's amazing what Joe Gibbs has done. He's a Hall of Fame NFL coach with 3 Super Bowls, and then he's now a successful race car owner.
That tells you something about his character, right? If you were able to be a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame NASCAR team owner, it clearly means you're good with people and you know how to put the right people in the right places to succeed. So that's very rare you see that, but I've worked with Joe enough to know that that's what his specialty is getting the most out of his people.
Now, everyone always talks about the driver. The driver's the one who does all the driving, of course, but the mechanics, the pit crew, how important are they to a successful team?
Listen, there's only 3 things that are different in each car that you watch this weekend. It's the driver, it's the crew chief, and the pit crew. I mean, the pit crew are these amazing athletes that, have probably performed in other sports. Maybe they didn't get the call in the NBA or the NFL or whatever it might be, but now they've got another avenue to participate in professional sports. So they come and they try out. And what we look for in our pit crew members is people with fast feet. You get those fast feet, fast hands
too. I mean,
absolutely.
You got to get those tires, you got those changed, and
to do a pit stop in 9 seconds, it's really hard to do, right?
It's amazing. I would never be able to do anything like that. The dexterity, pumping the gas. I know you had that thing you had to peel off the windshield too, right? The shield.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has such a crucial role to a pit stop. So, again, the driver, the pit crew, and the crew chief are the 3 main things that make, a team fast or slow on any given weekend.
Can I ask you a question, Denny?
Yeah.
Like last week when you had that last pit, that was, I think, 9 seconds. I mean, I was counting it down while we're on. Can you tell while you're in the car that these guys are killing it this time? Like, you have that mental clock knowing that difference between 10.3 and 9.3 seconds even?
100%. I knew when they dropped the jack on the right side after 3.5 seconds.
Oh, really?
Because we do have an internal clock.
Right.
I knew we were on a heater at that point.
That was awesome.
And so at that point, I'm just thinking, do not stall this fucking car and ruin everything, the advantage that they just got me. So
it's fair to say they didn't win the race for you, but they certainly put you in a position to win the race.
I mean, they put me in a position to. Yes, I won the race, but I actually think they won me the race, right? I mean, when you control the restart, it gives you such an advantage, especially when you only got 2 laps to, try to overtake the leader. It's almost impossible.
Now, do you like the way they finish races now?
I do. I mean, they've certainly changed formats for many, many years in NASCAR, trying to make it more exciting. I think ending races under caution, nobody wants to see that.
Nobody wants to see that.
No one wants to see that, right? So they at least finish it under green. And, they used to have where it was, they limited the amount of attempts. Now it's just unlimited.
Which I like.
Yep.
But what about the stages?
I like the stages, and, we are still an entertainment business. So we have to understand that while maybe the purists don't like it because you're artificially stopping the race and bunching the field back up, we have TV partners that need to get commercials in.
Yeah.
And, that does help. The proof in the data shows that if you have a long green flag run to start the race, less people start tuning in, so they want to see the restart. So I think the stage breaks are good. We at least can plan around them. We used to get some cautions that were very questionable, but it was because they needed a damn TV break. So I think at least where they're going to fall seems to be a lot better.
Now, of course, the one thing that's eluded you is the series championship. You've come very close so many times. What about the format, how it's run now?
I don't love it. I just think that the reason I don't love it, coming down to one race, is that racing is a sport where luck is involved. And it's not, luck is a very loose term that people use. But when you're competing in a championship in any other sport, it's one-on-one. Your team versus the other team. The difference in NASCAR is it's 1 against 3, but there's 33 other guys out there that can completely screw up your day.
I mean, I was watching the Daytona this year, and there was the wreck that Joey Logano was looked like he was having a great day. And then,
yes.
Like a multiple car pileup that he just couldn't avoid. It was just
So he didn't make the mistake. Someone else did that wasn't even part of the championship.
No, it was like a lapped car spun into another car and caused a domino, just changed the whole race.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been in those scenarios. I think in 2019 or 2020, I forget which year it was, but it's me and Truex leading the race, and it's going to come down to us. And then somebody running 32nd wrecked, caused a caution. Kyle Larson's pit crew gets about P1 in the pits. Kyle Larson wins the championship. So I don't know. To me, it's a little bit Mickey Mouse, but it's the way it is. We all know what it is. I prefer they have a championship round. They have rounds.
I like the championship round. I like that idea.
Because there's a 3-race round when you have 16 cars, then they cut it to 12, to 8, to 4. Why don't we have a championship round? Challenge these drivers at multiple different racetracks. I mean, I don't care if you put a road course in the championship round. At least you're crowning a champion off a larger sample size. No doctor puts out a new fix for something without testing it over a large sample size. So why do we have our championship coming down to one race where luck can be involved?
And like I said, you're going to wreck in your career. That's
absolutely
a matter of fact. It's nobody could avoid it. It happens, but you just got to find a way to get around it. And what's the scariest wreck you've ever been in?
The scariest one by far for me was California 2013. I broke my spine during that wreck. I remember the pain I felt, honestly, until they gave me meds when I got in the helicopter. It was excruciating. I could not breathe. It was just really, really bad. And so that's the one that, it messed me up for a year. I couldn't feel the car. You know, the difference in good race car drivers, great race car drivers, is they've got something in their ass that makes them feel the car sliding before it actually starts sliding. And so that kind of messed me up a little bit in my feel. So when you have back problems, you don't have that level that tells you you're on the edge. And so I spent a year trying to recover from that. And so that by far was the best.
Now here are the cars, and it's amazing. They've changed them over the years. I mean, now they have the car that basically you just level the field.
Yes. So we used to design these cars from top to bottom. We of course had parameters in which we needed to, you know, keep it in the box. But now all these cars are essentially, you know, to make it in layman's terms, it's a 200-piece Lego set that you put it together, and you can put it together any way you want to, but you all have to run the exact same parts. Now, there are some parts that the teams still manufacture, and you know, there's a lot of brackets and dashes and things like that, but anything performance related, every one of these cars are exactly the same.
So basically, even though it says Chevy or Ford or Toyota, it's all the same car.
Yeah, so what the new rules with the bodies of these cars, and why you see that they look so different, is that they actually have a box in which aerodynamically they have to fit into. So when the Toyotas develop a new Camry XSC like they did this year, we still
23 and 45.
We still could not exceed the box that the Chevy was in or the Ford was in. So while we could improve it slightly, we're all still in such a small box that although the cars look different on the outside, they're basically the same.
I mean, the sound of the cars. The first time I went to a race was a couple years ago. I went to the Daytona, and the day before, when the Xfinity race is going on, we were just outside going shopping, like across the street from the shores there, and you could hear the cars. It just sounded. You could actually hear them from miles.
Yeah.
The sound of that roar.
That's what NASCAR racing is, right? And that's something that made me want to become a NASCAR driver when I was 5 years old. I went to a race at Richmond. My parents have had season tickets there now for almost 40 years. But the moment I felt the cars rumbling by and I smelled the tires and fuel, I was instantly hooked, and I wanted to be a race car driver.
I mean, it's just looking at the cars, it's awesome. It's just like, how fast
these are precision
go.
machines. I said this before, it's like we're racing Lambos, but you look at these cars, they're $300,000 cars, at least, each one of them. So these cars definitely have quite a bit of technology.
And not just the crew chiefs, but the day-to-day mechanics on it. The best mechanics in the world, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these crew members come from the local short track ranks, which is why NASCAR Roots is so important to us, is developing not only race car drivers, but mechanics. So, a lot of these guys have been in motor racing for decades, and they finally just worked their way up to the Cup Series.
And of course, the one thing about, we're in Martinsville, which is the oldest track, the only track that continually, the entire history of NASCAR, now over 75 years. Of course, you're on the old 75th team. Got to mention that.
Yep.
But they have the 75th anniversary. They've been racing here since 1949, since the very beginning of NASCAR. And it's the last one that's a regular series event.
Yeah, this is one of the best racetracks that is on the NASCAR circuit. It's independently owned. Clay Campbell, I think, founded it. Clay Campbell runs it. And so we get to race here. Before I made it to NASCAR, I was actually racing here at Martinsville once a year for the big late model race. And so it's just a sweetheart track. It's, are we in a big city? No, but it's, these are
the roots of NASCAR.
This is the roots.
The whole roots of NASCAR, the beginnings of NASCAR. It's good that they at least still have, now you go to Phoenix, Las Vegas, all the biggest cities in the world, the Miamis, you're everywhere, but it's good to keep these old tracks.
Well, yes, there's a place in our schedule. There always should be a place in our schedule for these types of tracks. And while we want to keep things new and fresh, and we have big sponsors that come that love to sit in suites and all that stuff, you still got to have these sweet hard tracks for sure.
Now, besides racing and owning a team, are there any charitable endeavors that you're involved with and trying to help build the sport, build the sport beyond this, and just help out in general?
Yeah, I mean, we had the Denny Hamlin Foundation that we started about 15 years ago. What the main benefactor of that is cystic fibrosis. You know, I didn't understand back in the day when my cousin was taking all these meds and, you know, had all these inhalers and all these things that he had. I never understood why and what was wrong with him, because from the outside, he looked very normal. And so I got educated a little bit about cystic fibrosis, and they have just come such a long way in their research. And, you know, the life expectancy for someone with cystic fibrosis has went from, you know, a late teenager to my cousin's now my age in his 40s. So it's, you know, that because, so I know that all the money that I've given cystic fibrosis for their research, it's working, right? And so we're letting people live longer. Another
guest I'm going to be walking with very soon is Boomer Esiason, who has done tremendous work for cystic fibrosis because his son got diagnosed with that.
Yep.
When he was like,
yeah, my cousin,
very young. He's like 3.
My cousin has had a double lung transplant, and it was very successful. So, I mean, these guys are living normal lives now. It's great.
Yeah. I believe Boomer's son has his own family, and he's like a high school coach and high school gym teacher.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. That was 30 years ago that Boomer like announced his son has this condition, and he's like really like ran like head first into it.
So where are you at with your journey right now?
Well, I've been doing it now 6 months. This is walk 191. No, 192. 192. And I've lost 50 pounds since August.
That's amazing.
I mean, the heaviest I ever was over 500 in 2016. And I've gone up and down between 360 and 450 for the last 5 years. But now I'm finally down to 333. Lowest I've been in years. I've gone from a size 69 belt to this size 50, being able to squeeze in a 56.
Have the walks gotten easier?
Yes, they have. I did a walk in Northern Virginia on a historic battlefield, Civil War battlefield.
Wow.
And a lot of hills. And I probably couldn't have done that 3 months ago.
Man, that's awesome. What was the best advice you ever have been given on it?
Don't stop.
Yep.
Just keep going. I mean, that's the way to do it. When you got full momentum, you're going, you're charging.
You're gonna have days where you're like, I don't want to do it today, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's always.
I had a day where I had 102 fever, and I walked.
Wow.
I've walked through a week-long sinus infection, which was.
Yeah, that'll take all your breath out right there.
That wiped me out, that sinus infection. And it's been a brutal winter up in New York this year. Not so much snow, but rainy, cold.
Yeah.
I mean, this week it was in the 40s.
Right, a couple of earthquakes thrown in there, Frank, right?
Damn.
I hear that you have a Netflix show starting up.
Yeah, we shot our first season of Netflix last playoffs actually, and yeah, I mean I was heavily a part of that for sure. People got to see some insiders, kind of how my week goes, and you know, kind of the balance that I've got between being
kind of a hard knocks for NASCAR.
Basically, that's what it is, right? And so I think they did a really good job of kind of educating your avid fans about some things, the personalities of the sport, because ultimately you need star power to continue to grow your sport. It is about the drivers in the end, right? I mean,
yep.
No one's going to come watch these races if the stars are not in it. So,
well, what's the name of the show?
It's NASCAR Full Speed. It's on Netflix. Came out late this winter. and people can still go check it out. So it's, I think it's just a great run through the playoffs. It's a 10-week kind of a show of, how they crown the champion in NASCAR.
Now, to be honest with you, in New York, NASCAR is kind of like not really a big thing. So I've had my teams, but I've never really been fully into NASCAR. I mean, my teams torture me. Let me put it this way. Being a Mets fan is like having your heart ripped out of your chest on a daily basis. It's like the scene from Indiana Jones, where the guy reaches into the chest, pulls out the heart, and is laughing. That's what the Mets do to me.
So where does your allegiance, let me ask you a hypothetical. The Dolphins, the Devils, and the Mets all play at the same time on the same day. Where's your priority lie?
Well, it probably had to be Dolphins because the NFL season's so compact and short.
Okay.
And then Mets will probably be second, Devils third. Just the overlap in baseball and hockey isn't that much. But if it's a Devils playoff game, I'll choose that over the Mets. And if it's a Mets playoff game, I'll choose that over the Devils.
Let me ask you this, are you a believer that Tua is going to take you to the promised land?
I don't know, but there's nobody out there that's better right now.
Right.
There's nobody available. There's nobody that the Dolphins can get who's better. If Lightning,
you have your choice, Tua or Dak Prescott?
I might stick with Tua.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I might stick with Tua. Just because he's homegrown.
Yep.
We drafted him. Dak Prescott, he just seems, the Tua's only had one chance under the spotlight. One. And it was a sub 30 degree below zero day with his entire team injured.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I can't judge him yet. I cannot judge him on that playoff loss. I've recently switched to the Knicks from the Nets because the formerly New Jersey Nets, they died when they became Brooklyn. And I just cannot embrace Brooklyn. I just can't.
So
I tried.
I watch you watch these sporting events, and I watch you take your glasses and absolutely destroy them.
Yeah.
I'm guessing how many glasses have you gone through, or are these things just bulletproof and like
Oh no,
20 glasses you get out of
I've got a whole bag
machines.
of broken glasses. I'm thinking of selling them to some fans. I mean, giving them to fans. I got a shopping bag of broken glasses, and I'm glad that there's a certain glass company that exists.
Yeah.
I'll mention it, Denny. I'm glad they exist. This maybe they can sponsor me.
I'm more of a Shady Rays guy, and just so you know, if you have no sunglass deal, Shady Rays actually has the cheapest polarized sunglasses. I know that you have a prescription. I do not. So, but like you can tear them up, and guess what? You can also just get a free pair if you say you lost them or destroyed them because the Mets gave you another excruciating loss.
Now, which NASCAR team should I root for, and why?
Oh man. I mean, I'll take the bias out of it, right? And, because the obvious answer I'm going to tell you is 2311 because it's the team I own. I think that we do things a little differently. If you look at our cars, they're always a little different. We do a lot of collaborations with, country music artists and all kinds of different things, right? We did one with the Star Wars last year.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so if I had to take them out of the equation, I would say Joe Gibbs Racing because Joe Gibbs Racing is Joe Gibbs, and this is his family business. While you look at the Rick Hendricks and Roger Penske's that have been part of this sport for decades and decades and decades, this is more of a hobby for them. This is not their portfolio. They're car dealerships that, these guys have got a lot going on other than the race team. Now, they're very passionate about them. Absolutely, 100%. But Joe Gibbs Racing, this is all he does. He went from football to NASCAR racing. If you look in the front office, you're going to see a lot of the people, his kids, his grandkids. This is a family business for him, and it's all he does. And I can tell you this guy leads by example. He's 80 years old, And I don't give a shit what day of the week it is. At 8 a.m., you'll see his car in the driveway at his race team. He's walking around the shop.
That's commitment.
And he's telling people, you know, what can I do to make you better?
That's
and that's what I really love about him.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. You know, like I said, I don't know that much about racing. I'm a casual racing fan. Growing up, I, of course, was a fan of Dale Earnhardt Jr., or Dale Earnhardt Sr., I should say. And I try to follow it from here and there. I might turn on a race during the season here and there, but I'm a baseball fan. I watch baseball, I watch football. So I've never really gotten fully into NASCAR, especially since it's never been a big deal where I live.
Yeah, the closest thing you've got to where you live is like, you know, Pocono.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Watkins Glen. I mean, that's upstate though. So
yes.
It's not in the city.
No.
That's why we went to Chicago last year, right? We brought the racing to the people. That's one of the things that NASCAR's really done over the last few years is start bringing the races into the cities itself. That way people like yourself that don't get exposed to it, they do. And that hopefully changes their mind about it.
Has NASCAR ever flirted with the idea of maybe putting a race into New Jersey?
I heard that back in, not too long ago, they were poking around Staten Island to build a racetrack.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
That's actually New York City. I don't know how they do it, but you know, again, we were racing around the fountain in Chicago, so no telling. I mean, Staten Island is a part of New York City. They sold it from New Jersey, just like they sold the Statue of Liberty from us. Well, I tell you what, this weekend I'm going to enjoy 2 races. I'm going to watch the Dude Wipes 250, the Cookout 400. And you know what? I think I'm going to make your team my team.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Frank. So let's go. Thanks for the walk. Good luck to you in your journey.
Well, thanks.
Well, Frank, there's one thing I wanted to give you before you leave. I know you're going to do a lot of walking. So we got with the folks at Nike. We have the Forrest Gump waffle shoes here.
Oh.
That
nice.
I mean, he ran across the country many times, and so we got your size, and maybe you can make use of them in future walks. Okay.
Beautiful. Thanks.
You're welcome.